All right.
All right, welcome, Trace. How's it going?
It's going all right. Cold as shit in Utah, but
Yeah, I would imagine so. Pretty interesting weekend in wrestling. Tell us a little bit about your wrestling background first.
so I am a freestyle wrestler at 97 kilos. I'm on the cusp of being an international, like a series international competitor. I also have some crossover in MMA. I'm looking to take a fight here probably in the next 3 or so months. Um, train with, currently some All-Americans, UFC pros. That's generally my fighting background.
Yeah. So, of course, I've known Trace a long time. He's always really been committed to wrestling. We used to play football together actually in high school as well. We played for his dad. He always loved wrestling more than football, but that's besides the point. He's now decided here in the last 3, 4 years to fully commit himself to wrestling. And we were watching some of the wrestling meets this weekend, the national championships for NCAA, and honestly, some pretty interesting bouts going on.
Yeah, NCAAs was pretty hot this year. It's usually it. Look, NCAA wrestling in the United States, while being an underrated sport, is definitely one of the most competitive.
Agreed.
Um, and I think we got to see some fascinating matchups. I mean, usually most people come into it looking at, oh, Penn State's going to win everything again, which,
Which they did, if you really look at the team total. The only thing that brings Kale Sanderson happiness nowadays is making a four-time champion and winning that team title.
well, he's going to abuse NCAA rules to make a five-time champion.
Yeah. I mean,
Which
if Dave Fix went to Penn State.
we were talking about this yesterday. I think Kale has achieved quite literally every accolade there is to achieve now in wrestling. Like
100%. There's no
he has
comparison.
he has Olympic medals, he has world championships, he has four NCAA titles. Um, he has all the coaching accolades now. I don't know if there's an argument, at least within the United States, if there is anybody else to hold down the GOAT spot.
There really isn't. I mean, it's him as a competitor. What was it? 158 wins, zero losses recorded as a competitor in NCAA. And then he wins an Olympic gold medal. He did get a silver at Worlds right before the Olympic gold medal. And I think that fueled him even more to get that Olympic gold medal in 2004 Athens. And then he pretty much leaves being a competitor after attaining what, for most people, and even for yourself, is a lifetime goal, being an Olympic medalist, let alone doing it at the absolute highest level, winning gold and converting into coaching and 11 championships in 13 years.
Which the crazy part, I mean, I've been around coaching before. It's hard to build a championship program that lasts a couple of years. Imagine building one that lasts a decade with no sign of stopping. Like that's
No signs.
I think the other thing, people, you guys are basketball, game made basketball and football. I don't give a shit. You hear about these other coaches, like John Wooden, I think wasn't he the most dominant college basketball or baseball? Fuck, basketball.
John Wooden is an old-time basketball coach.
Yeah,
Yes,
he had one of the
he pretty
most.
much revolutionized the game.
Yeah, no one talks about Kale, and as it pertains to coaching companies outside of wrestling. It's always, for Nick Saban, John Wooden, these guys. Like, give him his respect.
I mean, if you really look at it, there's no one that had a run of dominance just like that Kale has had at Penn State at those other levels. You have Phil Jackson, who's multi-time champion, won 11 championships, six with the Bulls, five with the Lakers. You have Belichick, who won six championships with the Patriots, which you can argue it is very difficult to win a championship in football due to the fact of how much of a team game it is, and it can't be an individual player.
But
But that applies to wrestling here too.
the other thing that I think people in the wrestling community that we don't acknowledge is that I think the depth of competition domestically in football is higher than this because
Agreed.
we have so many more people playing, and I really don't think you can deny that the freakiest athletes are in football or basketball.
Football and basketball. Yep.
Um, Wrestling has very high level athletes. We have Jordan Burroughs, we have Gable Steveson, but for every Gable Steveson in wrestling, there's 20 of them in the NFL. I do think we have to acknowledge that. But yeah, I do think that Kale is not getting the respect he deserves. outside of the sport, obviously the sport he's a god, but
Do you think if there was more money in the sport of wrestling, we could see some of those super athletes that we see in other sports maybe jump over to wrestling?
yes,
Like,
absolutely. So that here's the problem, right? Wrestling has the fans. I mean, NCAA's had those 80,000 people in the arena.
yeah, it was like 77,800
That's a
roughly.
lot of people to fill up an arena. Now, I know we had this talk that March Madness, they do that in every state,
Yeah,
but
pretty much wherever they go.
there's only one NCAA tournament, right? And March Madness is a whole different format. Had we been seeing football money, basketball money, and wrestling, those things are definitely. I think that you have like Stephen Neal, he's out of Powell. He was a world medalist, and then he went to the Patriots.
I think he played fullback.
He was an offensive tackle,
There we go.
big ass dude. He was a heavyweight. So
Okay.
he wrestled in college. I don't believe he was NCAA champ. He goes on to freestyle, wins a gold medal at the World Championships, doesn't go to the Olympics. He immediately parlays that into I'm now an offensive lineman for the Patriots. And goes
Making
on,
millions.
wins 4 Super Bowls,
That's a natural born winner.
which frankly, that's probably the most interesting career out of wrestling. We've had a few guys.
Yeah.
Adam Coon tried to go over the Titans, I think, and he didn't pan out.
Even
So
Brock Lesnar, dominant NCAA champion. Dominant. I believe he tried out for the Vikings and it just didn't work out. Went to the WWE, became a superstar there, transitions to the UFC, becomes a champion there. Some interesting career paths really come out of wrestling. I think the discipline wrestling teaches an individual allows them to succeed in any other field they set themselves to.
yeah, it's kind of the sport cultivates psychopaths. Really.
In the nicest way
So
possible.
so when I think about it, right, when I was training with Ali Power, the Mexican world, he used to have me do shit that I was like, why am I even here? And over time, getting to progress through that, you kind of just embody it eventually. And then you're like, this is just what we do now. And it becomes a pivotal part of your character too, because you're like, well, I could do this the easy way,
You
but
could.
I refused. Yeah, it definitely produces a bunch of champions. Let's kind of get into the overall brackets of the NCAAs and
Mhm.
how those turned out.
Yeah.
First thing, my first impression, Dayton fix.
Yeah, man. I mean, you got like I understand there was a lot of hate going towards Dayton Fix over the course of the tournament. People were really turning on him, especially the fans. Some of the ways he was winning, it wasn't, the most beautiful wrestling. I think in this quarter or the semifinal, he advanced on a violation because the guy clasped his hands, gets the escape point, wins about 3-2. Um, but man, 4 times runner up, always the bridesmaid, never the bride. You really got to feel for him at that point. I mean, I know I do.
It's such a tough position, right? To be so good, like he wasn't sixth, he wasn't third. It
Oh,
was two, 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 two.
4 years in a row, 5-time All American.
He's fucking good. You can't discredit the guy for that. And this is the thing I fucking tell you guys about. Fans talk the most shit. Like they're not the
Yeah.
person, right? I mean, if it was would I like 4 second place finishes? No, obviously, cool. But at the end of the day, that's 4 NCAA silver medals. That's incredible. 5-time All Americans also. What the fuck? It
Yeah, I
doesn't get
mean, elite. He's an elite wrestler, and it just never came together for him at the last moment.
he he's not going to continue a freestyle. I don't think he will. And the reason I don't think he will is because I don't think his style really suits freestyle. He definitely relies a lot on the rules of folk style to, I don't want to say like he's gaming the rules because every athlete does to a degree. but he is definitely reliant on a lot of those, 1 point reversal wins, which you don't get in freestyle, right? It's we're neutral or we're down. And I think if he goes anywhere, he's either going to go to coaching with his
Yep.
bachelor's in coaching sciences and his master's in recreation and health applications, or he goes to the UFC, which we've been seeing. I mean, obviously, the past 5 years of the UFC has been wrestler after wrestler getting signed. And frankly, I don't know if he had an NIL deal. He might have. I mean, he really wasn't the biggest attraction out of Oklahoma State, anyways. Um, but at the same time, Bo has a $200,000 fight. Is it 200 or 500?
No, I think it was like 200 after all the sponsorships and everything like that.
He's
Bo
getting
Nickel.
$200,000 a fight.
He's making big money in the UFC, most definitely. He's fighting on the main card in UFC 300.
He hasn't even been in the UFC long enough.
He has 5 fights. You have
Yeah,
former champions fighting in the prelim with Bo Nickel fighting in the main card. It's pretty crazy the draw he is in the UFC.
Court's on the fight night. He's not even on 300.
Yeah, see, look at that. And he's been in the UFC for what, 15 years
15.
now?
Yeah. So I think Dayton is going to look at the UFC money and he's going to say, you know what? I got my degree. I finished my wrestling career. I'm just going to go take this big ass paycheck to go fight in the UFC. Now it's going to take him, I'd say it's going to take him 2 years before he really starts to break out.
Maybe not, because if you think about it, his wrestling in comparison to an MMA fighter at
Has
the amateur level is so dominant, right?
It's true, but the problem is this. When I was at 540, there was a guy, his name's Chasen Blair. He was an NC State wrestler. Wasn't an All-American. He was just he was pretty good. He had a winning record, but nobody amateur would fight him. So he had to go pro, like off the jump.
Because of his skill set.
Yes. And he wasn't a great striker. His jiu-jitsu was pretty good, but it wasn't great. His wrestling was obviously a strong point, collegiate wrestling. So when you get a guy like Fix, who's 5-time All-American, how many amateur guys, even good amateur guys, are going to want to fight him? Because whether we like it or not, the amateur game is how do I cherry pick my fights to get enough wins to get to the UFC?
Yeah, to get a nice clean number out there.
Yeah, like I'm looking at it now. I mean, a teammate of mine just fought. He's 1-0. He fought a foreign guy. The guy's not foreign. But you're looking at these career builders basically. Like it's like you go to school, you get your master's degree, and then you go get some certifications. Amateur degrees are amateur fights are certification.
Yeah.
Collegiate wrestling is your master's degree. So you look at these guys. And, I mean, my first fight's probably against a fucking GameStop manager.
Let's be real here.
I have no like reservations about the idea that the amateur game is really kind of bullshit until you get into LFA. CFFC is the East Coast one. I recently found out about Cage Warriors as well. When you start getting into those promotions, things get more competitive. But before that, it's not. It's not really that crazy. And especially when you have crazy matches, it's going to be hard to find fights. But his striking needs to come up significantly. And that's literally every wrestler's problem is their striking.
Yeah, I mean, you're so used to always having your head down. If you have your head down in a stand-up fight, you're going to catch either a knee or an uppercut that will put you out.
Yeah, and the other problem is the footwork, or just the footwork in general, right? Wrestling footwork, it's dynamic, it's very active, but it's not like striking. It's so much different because you have to be light on your feet with striking, which is kind of antithetical to wrestling. All things considered. They say be light on your feet, move fast. The only guy who really has striking level footwork in the United States is Jaden Cox. His
And I
footwork
mean,
is
that's a monster right there. That guy, he is world class. He's been what on the US team for how long now? 2, 3 years?
two. I think his first Olympics was 2012.
Jaden Cox's first Olympics was in 2012?
Yeah, let me look at. I
No,
think.
I thought he was younger than that.
Let me look it up here.
Let me see. Because he's only 29. His first Olympics was 2016, Rio. He took bronze in Rio. He's been competing at Worlds since 2017.
I might be thinking Jordan Burroughs' first Olympics was
Jordan
Beijing.
Burroughs was 2012.
London. London was 2012. Beijing was 2008.
Yeah. And he won gold there.
Yeah, he has not repeated since. Crazy
Yeah.
though, 6 world medals, gold.
It's a different breed. There's a level of competitor that gets you to that point that when you get to that point and you don't stop, you're always going to be trying to get back there and striving for it. And that's what it looks like happened to JB. Now he's I think 34 now. He's body's, feeling the effects of long time wrestling.
I I I wonder what he feels like every day.
I couldn't
Like
imagine.
at 24, I wake up some days. Jesus Christ.
I don't know if I can get up this morning.
I can't imagine. Which I've always held the position that JB is he's using something performance enhancing.
No, I
I,
wouldn't go that far.
I would I don't know what it is, but I think he has to. Look, dude, we're seeing athletes reach a age that is just unprecedented for him, right? I mean, fucking Tom Brady's like 42 years old.
Yeah, Tom Brady has been playing football. Dude, Tom Brady got drafted the year I was born,
You're 199, right?
99.
Yeah. Yeah. That's 20, 24 years of pro football.
Yeah.
That's
What about
unheard.
LeBron? LeBron drafted in 2003, he's still playing at a high level for the Lakers. It's unreal. The human body, I feel, with the development of sports science, is being able to reach peaks that it could never reach. Of course, historically, you had individuals be great, but now it's becoming more sustained. More people are hitting 10, 15, 20 years in sports that historically you haven't been able to.
It is kind of strange too when you think about. Let's look at like the 80s, right? The 80s, late 70s, across really every sport was. I don't want to say it was widely considered peak of PED use, but it was probably the peak of cowboy style PEDs. Like, hey,
Explain cowboy style.
here's a bottle of Diana. You're finishing it today. Versus like today, okay, you're going to take 20 milligrams on Monday. You're going to take 20 milligrams on Wednesday. Take 20 milligrams on Friday. It's gotten a lot more just from what I've read personally and from what I've talked to people who are uh, connoisseurs that
That are well versed in this realm.
are, yeah, understanding of the situation. It has gotten to be much more professionalized. And the only people who were really doing that beforehand was the Soviet.
Yeah, I
And I
mean
guess
that was a
sure.
government sponsored program over there.
Yeah, well, the nature, at least on the Olympic side of stuff, the nature of PED use is rather pervasive. Uh, I it's kind of hard. I've always stood by the stance that if athletes are going to compete at the highest level, let them take what they need to perform, because you're going to hit a catch 22. Like I like to take the sport of Olympic weightlifting as an example. Lasha Pelakadze is not going to hit a 580-pound clean and jerk clean. Nobody is hitting a 580 natural. But if you suddenly stripped all the drug out of the sport, his clean and jerk would come down to, let's say, 500. Then people would be like, why the fuck are we watching this? We just watched a guy clean 580 last year. What the fuck happened? So then they're going to run away. So these these organizations have gotten into a position where they don't publicly tell people to take drugs, but behind the scenes, they kind of incentivize you to. And if you look at, have I told you the WADA policies for suspensions?
No.
They don't test you during the entire suspension.
Wait, so when the World Anti-Doping Association suspends you for PED usage, they don't test you during the suspension for PED usage.
Correct.
So pretty much, okay, you got suspended one time, go as ham as possible during the suspension and come back, like, hop off a cycle 3 weeks prior so you can piss clean when the suspension's over. That
That,
that's backwards.
and you can miss 3 tests without a So if you are, let's say the testing pool starts January, ends December, you get to miss 3 random tests within that time. So what people will do is it's a, I forget what the app's called. It's called like Athlete Passport. They'll say, I'm going to training camp in Texas. They're not in Texas. So so if a uh, tester comes, and it only has to be like a 3 day span, right? So you take the testosterone on Friday, and by the middle of that next week, you'll piss clean, assuming that you're not a fucking idiot. So that's kind of the nature of the back shit, which we're way off, we're way the fuck off topic, but it's kind of important to the
So
sport.
let me just make sure I got your point as accurate as possible. So you are for permitting performance enhancing drugs in the realm of competition. Like why do these organizations act like all these athletes are clean when a lot of athletes aren't actually clean in the sport, and just let's permit them to use what they can to attain the absolute peak of what the human body can.
If I were to implement testing in professional, collegiate, and Olympic sports, I would implement a health panel test. So instead of saying we're going to prohibit drugs, I would come in and say, hey, we're going to take a baseline for your blood work. So, cholesterol, all that shit. And say, hey, when you get outside this range, we'll suspend you. So you have to stay within the parameters of like what is reasonably healthy. Otherwise, you're going to have guys who are injecting 2 grams of test a week, which probably some, because not everybody has a doctor, right? But I think that performance testing and like health parameter testing would be a wise idea.
So here's the thing with implementing a baseline test, right? So say you get an athlete
You can
18,
fuck the
you're
baseline.
huh?
You can fuck the baseline.
Exactly. So it's like, say you get an athlete at 18 years old. A lot of athletes can be using performance enhancing drugs in high school.
Hmm?
So where is their baseline? And they're in a time where the body is developing, their hormones change, testosterone increases or decreases according to external factors. How would you implement a baseline test, attain an accurate baseline, and make sure that, hey, we're not suspending someone for something that isn't necessarily illegal?
So you're getting in a territory where me lacking a degree in professional endocrinology is becoming a problem. But if I had to guess, I would say, hey, we're going to give you a test, just a baseline test. Like, get off your shit, please. I can't make you, but get off your shit. Come in every 4 years, every couple of years. We're going to see where you're at. And then we'll do a on cycle test and see where you're at. And then we'll kind of compare the two numbers. And if they're suspiciously close, you might be lying to us. But yeah, that's that's kind of how I go about it. But I would also wish to have the budget to hire a team of professionals
Yeah, right.
instead
Maybe
of just,
like making USADA 2.0.
yeah, USADA's a, well, the UFC just left USADA. The only people who
Yeah.
really like the NFL doesn't use it, the NBA doesn't use it. It's really just Team USA that uses it because they have to.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. If Team USA doesn't use the US Anti-Doping Administration, who is?
It's kind of shitty. But
Um, let's get back to wrestling though. That was a
yeah,
nice tangent we spoke of. But so we did talk about Dayton Fix. I want to talk about Vito. I mean, Vito took 2 losses in the regular season, and coming into the tournament, I was like, this dude, honestly, he's looking healthy. I think he's gonna win it all, right? Did I not say that to you?
You did. So from my kind of perspective too, sitting, I guess, courtside to the wrestling community, um, Vito was getting all kinds of shit going into the NCAAs because he lost to Kirkham twice, I think, uh, regular season. And people like, oh, you're a world medalist. Why are you losing some fucking freshman? Obviously, you're going to get that shit. But
Yeah.
he came in, and honestly, respect to the Cornell guys. All of them wrestled hard. And they all, even despite some bad calls, were putting everything, like no short memory type shit. All that was good. I mean, he had the issue with Dayton Fix at the end, uh, where he headbutted Dayton Fix.
Yeah,
Um,
that was wild. Like that was maybe the longest match I think I've ever watched.
it was 22 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, what, 4 blood stoppages? I think the brick got thrown 3 times in the span of one period. It was a wild time.
Vito is primed to go to the Olympic qualifiers here in the next month and fucking kill it.
I mean, he's the reigning team member too, so he's seated high.
He's seated in the
Yeah.
finals. He's gonna fucking kill it. Like I think, and actually, brought this up. Let me pull up the bracket.
For the team trials.
He's in, I believe he's in 74.
Um, but yeah, I mean,
74. It's not Vito. Vito might be even lighter.
well, 71 kilos is about 150 pounds. He's probably
So
what,
he's
six
167. Is he
Vito?
133?
Vito's 133. He's I think 61 kilos. Or
138.
57 kilos?
Pull up. I think
Maybe
it's
57 kilos. Being born in the United States and I can't convert kilos in my head to pounds.
yeah, go back to Morocco. Yeah. You'll learn pretty. Let's see. Senior national. Let's say wrestling. That's 60 kilos.
60 kilos is about 122 pounds. 63 kilos?
He might be 67.
Okay, so at the World Championships, he competed at 61 kilos in Belgrade.
Okay. Well, that might not be an Olympic class.
That's
Let's
another thing. Can we standardize weight classes, please?
Yeah,
That's
it
all
really
I
bugs.
ask.
So high school wrestling carries, it depends on the state, but I think it's 14 classes.
All I
Let's
know is
see.
I competed in 285, weighing 230 pounds. Let's go.
Vito Rujao is 61 kilos.
Okay, and then
And
yeah,
then,
so it goes 57 and 65 to 74 in the Olympics. We really need to expand the weight classes.
yeah,
That's
well,
a freestyle, of course.
this is so Greco has different weight classes too. Um, 61 kilos is going to be Vito. I'm gonna pull up the 2023 Open.
While you're pulling that up, I'm just going to talk a little bit more about Vito Arujao's run. I mean, he were absolutely, he dominated everyone he went against. Extremely talented athlete, very ferocious with his attacks. He does not like to play. He doesn't even mess around with the passivity at all. He will shoot. He could be up 10-3 and still be shooting. He does not care. And that's what I
He he
got this,
he goes hard, and
for sure.
it's really good to see that because a lot of guys, people do this in freestyle, live so all that. Um, they will sit on their heels when they get up by a significant because look, it works. As much as people hate it, it does work. So it's good to see guys who are. This is I found 61. Seth Gross. I'm just gonna skip to the quarters. It's more I'm gonna start seeing guys. Uh, Seth Gross, Austin DeSanto, Tomasella. Okay. I think going into the Olympic trials, he's got this locked up because he beat the Sanford 10. So he's a lock for 61, unless he has to move around for big weight classes, which he might because they're only carrying 6 this year, I think. Yeah, no one else. There's really no one else I can think of in his division outside of Crookham. But I don't know if he's going to go to the trials because I don't know if he's got the invite.
He was number 2 ranked and he was number 2 seed in NCAA. He must there must have been a way he got a trial invite in
Well,
some outside competition.
so the only ways you can get it: win the Bill Farrell, actually place top 3 at the Bill Farrell, assuming that there's no one else. You have to be the only American in the top 3 to get a
Okay.
spot. U.S. Open, All American. Senior Nationals, I think it's the winner.
Wait, if you're an All-American, you get an invite?
Yeah, so top 8 at the U.S. Open goes on to the Team Trials Challenge. So the U.S. qualifying method is arguably the most stringent in the world. You have to qualify from a major national or international tournament. Then you get invited to the Team Trials Challenge qualifier. And then whoever wins that goes against the existing seed at Final X. And that's best 2 out of 3.
Hmm.
So Vito's locked down 2 spots
Yeah.
because he won the NCAAs.
So if you're locked in 2 spots, so for the example, he's already the reigning team member, right? So there's no reason for him to get another invitation.
Yeah.
Does Dayton Fix then get the invitation as the runner-up in the NCAA championship, or does no one get that invite?
He might get. So the way that the Olympic trials invites work out is they kind of see who's in the spots already. Like, okay, we have Kyle Dake is in the finals. No surprise.
No surprise at all.
Then we look down the list to see who isn't invited yet. Like, let's say Dayton Fix didn't go to any of the tournaments, but he took second in series. He might get a wild card because they reserve the right to do that.
Got it.
Now, this is the potentially interesting situation. He might not, like Dayton might not get invited because they already saw him lose. And they said, okay, Vito's the reigning guy. Should we give the spot to someone else?
And who makes this decision? Is there a wrestling committee that makes this decision?
There's a selection committee. I don't know who's on it off the top of my head, but there is a selection committee for this. It's whoever does the seating for Final X and
There's a lot of people on it. But it's crazy how difficult it is to become a US team member or even to get invited to the trials.
That's why we're seeing a bunch of guys export themselves.
Like RBY.
RBY, one of the Valencia brothers is doing it as well.
Was it Zahir that did it? I think Zahir Valencia did. Or Zahid.
Zahid went to visit Mexico. I don't know if he's competing for.
So he's still competing for the United States. He competed at Worlds for the United States.
Well, the
What's
other
his
guy,
brother's name?
I forget his name. The Italian 97.
Italian 97. Italian 97.
I forget his name, but the guy who I saw at the Farrell was like, I'm wrestling that guy for his job. Yeah, there's a guy in Italy. There's a few guys. You guys wrestling for, I believe, Puerto Rico. And I'd have to look across the board because there's enough. I mean, Russia does this too, right? Like the guy who beat Kyle Snyder early this year was a Russian, and he was competing for, I think, Brunei or some country. Like,
It's crazy how uber competitive wrestling is in, of course, the
oh,
hotbeds like Russia, like the US, like a lot of the Baltic region, as well as Iran, that people are now moving themselves strategically to make it to the Olympics.
the Russians are putting us like a clamp on.
Oh, so they're shutting that down.
Yeah, so they said if you're going to compete if you're a Russian national competing for another country, you can no longer train with the Russian national.
Honestly, the US needs to start doing that. I mean, I understand trying to introduce a lot of great wrestlers into your wrestling room, into the ROTCs, but we're in essence strengthening our competition.
Well, here's the catch to that. A lot of our coaching staff at the elite level is composed of foreign wrestlers. Like, I mean, my last coach was from Uzbekistan. He's now the head coach of the Greco program.
Yeah.
I mean,
There's give and take.
yeah. I mean, it could be, coaches can be from foreign countries, but active athletes, maybe it's not a bit,
Yeah.
not acceptable. But it is tough. I mean, nope, this is less than a minute. This meeting.
I know, I can see it. It's because I don't have a Zoom Pro. We're gonna have to convert it over to Discord here in a minute.
Anyways, yeah, it's really tough to see how some of that works out. I mean, we haven't even covered most of the series.
Yeah, we'll get there here in a minute.
Right?
All right.
Also,
Do you want to wrap up this point and then we convert it over to Discord?
I think I wrapped it up. I mean, realistically, the United States might need to be a bit more selective about how it invites athletes.
Agreed.
Like Frank Chamizo is a great example. Cuban, trains in America, wrestlers for it.
Yeah, you're just making it harder on your own wrestlers to win.
Yeah.
All right, let's head on over to Discord.
All right.
All right, I started recording.
All right. Yeah, so that was kind of our point about the foreign training stuff. What angle do you want to take this in now?
Let's actually go back to the brackets themselves. I'm trying to pull them up right now. I have them right here. Let's kind of go through 125. Figueroa beat Ayala. Pretty interesting. ASU actually had a really good run in the tournament.
Yeah, ASU did do well. That's not really a surprise. ASU is a historically strong wrestling school. Especially, I mean, they had, forget his name. He's the freestyle head coach now. He was the head coach of ASU for a long time.
ASU freestyle head coach. Let me see. Oh, Zeke Jones?
Yeah. He was one of the coaches. There was another guy too. Let's see. Team USA. Freestyle head coach. Bill Zadek. He was the ASU coach for a while, if I remember right. He kind of split jobs. He had two jobs. Yeah, so ASU is traditionally good. They're more of a lightweight school. The heaviest guy that they really had is Zahid.
Got it.
And Zahid's not in college anymore, so
yeah, Zahid's gotten older now.
yeah, he's not a 26-year-old wrestling in the NCAAs.
Shout out Dayton Fix once again.
Shout out fucking Austin Gomez. I think he's 27.
Oh, there you go. There's 3 people wrestling in the NCAA past 26.
Gomez got his ass kicked. You didn't see that match.
No, I didn't watch it.
So I was watching it, 149 pounds. Let's see. He graduated from Iowa State in 21.
Gomez did?
Yeah.
He was wrestling
He
for
went to
Michigan.
Wisconsin too, and now he wrestled for Michigan. It's been at 3 schools.
Oh, look at that. Aiden joined. Aiden, we're doing a video right now.
Oh, he was born in 98. Okay, he's our age. For some reason, I thought he was like 7. So yeah, Austin Gomez got his ass beat. He kept trying to turn and do gator rolls like he was in a freestyle match.
Oh, what,
And his
trying to score
opponent
2,
realized-
2, 2, 2?
Yeah, and his opponent realized that and just stacked up the near fall points.
What?
which good on him. He won by like, I think it was like 15-3, something like that.
Why would he gator roll in folk style?
I don't know. I have no idea.
He didn't do that in previous matches.
Well, the thing is, there's not really any benefit to it in folk style.
There isn't. So I don't
Like,
know.
the only thing I can imagine there being a benefit for is like potentially you get near fall points. But
But
if
it's
you're
such a
really
high risk, high reward.
yeah, it makes sense in freestyle. Because there's really no incentive for the guy to get up, right? In folk style, it's like you don't stand up, you lose.
Yeah.
Versus freestyle is like, hey, did you know that I'm also made of Velcro? Um, I don't know. Austin Gomez, he did well up until the finals, and then he just fucking tossed it all away. I'm not sure why. Uh, what other matches were really, really good? Oh, Keegan O'Toole went on a tear
Yeah, and then
until he ran into
and
David
David Carr
Carr.
himself. David Carr looked like a man possessed in that match.
David Carr might have had the best tournament.
It was
The arguments seem to be Kekheisen and Carr had the best tournament.
Kekheisen was dominant. David Carr had to run through monsters to get to the championship.
Kekheisen won everything by a major or pin.
What a legend.
Aaron Brooks had a good tournament. I think his was kind of a foregone conclusion, though.
Yeah, Aaron Brooks just absolutely bossed everyone. I think
Again,
2 falls, 2
we had-
tech falls, and then I think in the final it was what, a shutout, 6-0 or something like that.
Something like that. And then we have Mr. Piss on Their Graves, Starochi.
Oh, my boy Carter Starochi, that dude.
That was a hell of a match.
It was a hell of a run. His knee, dude, the brace on his knee was gigantic. And for him to be able to overcome that injury, it was about 3 weeks prior to the tournament. Turn it all around, go in and win it all. How do you do that?
Starochi is a reason why Dake and JB are beefing right now.
What happened?
So during the commentating, JB was like, if I was his opponent, I would actively be going after his knee.
I did see that. And then
And Dake,
did you actually see the part after that where he's like, Carter Starochi's like, oh, I'm looking forward to April 19th. And Jordan Burroughs is all like, oh, I will go after that knee. I'm like, bro, I understand it as a competitor, you want any advantage. But as a commentator, dude,
the problem is JB is still an active competitor.
Yeah.
If you put Michael Jordan on the fucking NBA commentating bench, you know he would be saying some out-of-pocket shit.
No, but I don't ever remember Daniel Cormier talking negatively of Stipe Miocic when Daniel Cormier was a commentator while being an active competitor.
I'm not saying it's a good look, but it's the nature of highly competitive sports.
Yeah. But
so
what did
Dake responded and said, that's a bad look, you're a commentator, you're a pillar in the community. You don't got to talk about hurting people. And JB responds with, shut up, you punch people in the face for money. I know, Dake is Bill Nickel.
Yeah.
I get Dake and Nickel confused.
Well, I mean, they're both just dominant wrestlers out of Penn State.
It was Bo Nickel. It wasn't Kyle Dake.
I think I did see that. I did. Yeah. I did see Bo Nickel. I was confused when you said Kyle Dake because I was like, Kyle Dake said something too. I don't understand Jordan Burroughs is I can understand it as a competitor. I don't understand the response to Bo Nickel.
You know what it is?
What is it?
Jordan Burroughs has been in the room. This is going to be his last Olympic cycle. He's fucking spicy right now.
Yeah, he's going for it. This is it.
He's definitely got a sports psychologist. His coaches are hyping him up. His training partners are hyping him up. The Olympic qualifiers next month. He lost to Chance Marsteller back in 2023's Final X. He wasn't happy about that.
No, he was not.
So you look at Carter Strocci, a guy who could possibly come down to his weight class to 74.
74. What
He's
is that?
trying to
Another
set
7
himself-
pounds down?
He's trying to set himself up
It's like 167.
to win ahead of time. Because he doesn't. This is an issue. Athletes oftentimes end up giving their opponents too much respect. It's a fine line, right? How do I sit here and respect you for what you've done, but also come in with the fuck you, I'm gonna kick your ass, like I'm gonna do all that, right?
Yeah.
It's tough, and occasionally people step over the line. Everybody else in that tournament is gunning for Carter's knee. JB just happened to say it out loud.
Yeah, he verbalized it, and that's where I think the problem comes from.
Yeah, I mean it's.
And at the
It
end
is
of the
what
day, Bo Nickel got to support a fellow Penn State guy in Carter Sturroch.
Well, Kale called.
You think Kale called Bo?
Kale called Bo, and he said, "Hey."
Kale showed up in the nice crew neck and said, "Hey, this is not very religious, not very, not very holy at JB over here."
Yeah, I told you yesterday, I would love to go over to Penn State and see what's going on in there.
Oh,
Because
I
it doesn't.
can't even imagine. I can't
doesn't
even
make sense.
imagine the level of competition. That's not just iron sharpening iron. That's stainless steel being created over there. They gotta.
I saw an article the other day. Scientists have created a material harder than diamond.
Yeah, it's the Penn State wrestling room.
Yes, it's every wrestler who's ever been at Penn State once Kale got there.
But that was a really telling sign when Carter Storaci finished his match and the ESPN reporter, because everyone was wondering what that knee injury is. The ESPN reporter goes over to him and asks him specifically, "Hey, so can you tell us what about that knee now?" And Carter Storaci kind of tried to skirt the question by saying, it was a tough injury. Didn't really tell us what it was. It was an emotional time for me. I was on crutches about 12 days ago. The Rio national champion was the head of their medical team. And because they were talking about it during the broadcast, DCJB, they were saying it could be a torn ACL. And the reporter ended up asking, "Hey, is it a torn ACL?" And Carter Storaci right away, no comment.
See,
When someone says no comment that fast, either their PR team is unbelievably gifted or it's definitely that, and he can't say that.
Yeah, it's anytime someone in a court of law says I plead the fifth.
Yeah.
It's basically a yes. But I have the right to not incriminate myself. So my concern with Strocci is that it's worse than a single ligament tear.
You think he blew his whole knee?
It's possible he RG3'd himself, but I don't think it's to that extent because he wouldn't be able to walk. But if it's like an ACL and a MCL, that's pretty bad.
It's pretty bad.
I mean, what else do you put on the offensive tackle knee brace for?
Yeah,
like
that thing significantly hinders your mobility.
Yeah, I mean, the reality is he probably, I don't know how far out he tore the knee, but
it was at the mid to end of February. Dude, it was legit 3-4 weeks before the tournament. I think it was February 25th, if I remember correctly, because they showed the video. It was in the Penn State. It was in a Penn State hosted meet, and it pretty much got knee barred, right? Jiu-jitsu. It pretty much was a knee bar. It wasn't intentional, of course. It was just it was a defensive position on his half. He didn't want to get scored on. His knee just got put in a weird position, and it got
a knee bar. Then the likelihood he tore his ACL is not as likely as tearing the PCL. Because
it was at an angle because it was kind of to the side. It wasn't like his knee was straight on like this. It was more like it was rotated a little bit. It was very, very unique position. Freak accident.
Okay. Anyways, the turnaround is impressive. Suspicious, but impressive. I think that he probably tore his ACL at minimum. Um, there's possibly more damage in there, like meniscus too, something like that. But he's going to go to the Olympic trials. The question is, where does he go? Does he go to 74 or 86?
86 is untouchable. You got a
Yeah,
74.
where? David Taylor's cleaning out 86.
I know, it's untouchable. And David
74.
Taylor, Penn State guy. You know, Penn State guys, they look out for each other. I think he'd move up to 86 in the next cycle.
They have to start killing each other at this point.
Yeah,
Otherwise,
they run the
it's
whole
only
bracket.
It's only going to be Penn State guys. JB's at 74. Chance Marshall's at 74 because he's not going to 86. And Chance already knows he beat JB. So why not go do it again?
Yeah.
That's a really tough decision for Carter.
I think 74 is the better decision for him.
I'm not saying that 74 is the tough decision. I'm saying the knee healing all the way.
I think even if he goes in at 25%, he's at least going to show up and make an attempt, no matter what. I mean, it's going to be hard for him to win due to the injury.
Here's the angle, though. I think this is his angle. He's going to show up. Jordan's Jordan's back in the mix because Jordan lost to Chance. So Chance is the final seed for Final X.
Yeah.
Which I think Strochi can beat him.
Healthy.
Yeah, healthy Strochi can beat him, but Final X isn't until it's June or July.
No, I think it's June because July is the Olympics.
No, August is the Olympics, right? For this upcoming year. So he has to
Final
beat...
X is wait, no. When is it? It was in June last year, so it's going to be in June this year.
So April, May, June. He has roughly a month and a half post this tournament to heal. On top of, okay, so the trials qualifiers, you said, is April 20th?
19 and 20. Yeah.
April 20th. Okay, so he has about a month between now and then to heal more. I'd be hitting all the stem cells and fucking growth hormone, all that shit into my knee.
Everything you can do to help your knee out.
And then he has another month between then and Final X. It's possible. My only concern would be this. Is he healed enough to not fuck it up worse at either of those two tournaments or the Olympics?
I think
and if he fucks it up more, does that ruin the rest of his career?
Here's the thing. I think if this was a world championship run, I think he would rest and heal. You only have so many... Legitimately, a high-level wrestler, if they're lucky, has 2 cycles.
Fuck wrong with that. He had 4.
Well, I mean, again, that's a unicorn. But I'm talking about a good... when you're talking about Karelin, when you're talking about a DT, when you're talking about these guys, these are some of the greatest to ever do it for the U.S. or for the U.S. and Russia and whatever.
They're special. They're not...
They are not the norm. Usually, if you get one Olympic cycle, that's a successful wrestling career. But I think Starachi... Yeah.
He hasn't proven himself yet to be a David Taylor or an Adam Saitiev.
Of course not, no.
It's going to take him 16 more years to do that.
But that's why he can't throw away. He cannot sit back and rest for this moment. Because three world's medals are not the equivalent of an Olympic gold.
True.
That you can't. There's nothing like an Olympic gold medal. That is the absolute pinnacle you can achieve in any sport. In any Olympic sport is an Olympic gold medal.
It is the absolute worst time to get injured.
100%.
Now, Spencer Lee wrestled the whole season up to the NCAA finals on torn ACL.
It's doable. For some reason, it's other sports, basketball, football, whatever, you cannot compete at all on a torn ACL.
Yeah.
But wrestling, I think it has a little bit to do with the element of wrestling in that for example, basketball, you're doing a lot of jumping and a lot of lateral quick movements, which will just cause your leg to slip or your knee to slip if you don't have an ACL. But it's also a mental thing, just able to perform under excruciating pain.
Well, those guys are fucking like beyond pain
Yeah,
at that point. The other thing I do think too, we're talking about football and basketball. There's a lot of running.
Yeah.
There's not a lot. There's really no running in wrestling.
Unless you're dating Fix in 133.
Yeah, fixed. I mean, freestyle, you get 10 seconds of passivity is called.
Yep.
That's all you get. So you're going into somebody where you're getting beat. And you can build stylistically around a broken knee, like a broken ACL. It's going to hurt. And I'm sure that Carter Strachey was on a whole fucking bottle of Tylenol.
They got
Ibuprofen.
cortisone shots in his knee. They had to give him everything for his knee.
Oh, I'm sure they did. And I'm sure they will continue to do so. But it is kind of different. I don't think it's really comparable. Like a track runner couldn't run.
Oh, no way.
You know, it's special in the sense that wrestling is a little bit. It's a very dynamic sport, but compared to the others, it's pretty static.
Now let's talk about Aaron Brooks a little bit, right? The most impressive singular run in the tournament. Dominated every single person he competed against. He wrestled at 197. Do you think he can challenge Cox for the team seat?
He has challenged Snyder.
Is it Schneider? I thought it's 92.
92 is not an Olympic class. He has to go up to 97.
Oh, that's right. I hate, dude. They need to expand the weight classes.
Or he comes down to 87.
Yeah, no, that's not happening. Yeah, that's gonna be so difficult for him to win either of those seats. If he can do that,
capacity to go after Taylor. I think he does. Will he do it? Will Kale let him do it? Is the question.
Penn State's really gonna eat itself.
Well, yeah.
They own 3 seats.
Snyder trains in the Penn State room now.
Yeah.
Well, he was an Ohio guy, so he wasn't.
He did wrestle at Ohio State. He's not a Nittany Lion,
so
everyone trains.
Hey, get after it. But Taylor, that actually raises a further question. Do these guys already know each other's?
They have to.
Teams, like intimately.
They have to, dude. I could imagine every single time they go to train is a world championship final level match.
Yeah,
they are literally, those 3 guys are the same weight. They are going against each other every time.
I have heard that a lot of the Penn State practices for the elite guys, like the Snyders and the David Taylors, are very individually managed. So, like, each guy has a coach, because Penn State's coaching staff is more than just Kale, obviously. They each have a coach, and they each have the preferred partners.
I think it'd be foolish to not train with each other.
Yeah, to a degree.
At least David Taylor and Kyle Snyder should be training together. They are not competing for the same weight class. Yeah. I understand maybe not wanting to train with Brooks due to that fact.
Well, yeah, but that's the thing, right? So from what I've heard, and again, I can't confirm this because I haven't been yet, but it sounds like the Olympic guys, at least, like the college guys probably don't have a choice. I'm sure the college guys are like, Kale shows up. He's like, hey, everybody's wrestling everybody today.
Yeah.
But for Snyder and Taylor and whoever the hell else Penn State has on Kirklevet's going to win the heavyweight seed for the trials final. I don't think
no one knows what's going on with Gable Stevenson anymore.
Well, he's not coming back, but Mason Paris is the guy right now. So Mason Paris has the first seed at Final X, which means there's really no other heavyweights except Colton Schultz, and he's a Greco guy.
He's going to be the Olympic, the U.S. team member for the Greco.
Yeah. So Kirklevet I, I need someone to phonetically write out his name for me. But
Kirk Vliet. Kirk
Kirk,
Vliet.
Kirk, yeah.
Kerkliet.
He has effectively no challenge going into the team trials, and I mean Final X. I'm gonna be honest with you. I think Kirk Vliet is a athlete on par with Gable Stevenson.
Yeah, but then it gets down to the experience of it. He's done an
Yeah. Well,
Olympic
if Kirk
cycle.
Vliet goes and wins a gold medal this year, then there's really nothing saying
Oh,
he's not
yeah,
on par.
agreed. That would be it.
You know, Mason Paris is good, but Greg just beat everybody who would potentially get in his way.
How old is Kirk
Like
Vliet?
there's no other guys. I mean, the only other guy I can think of on this senior level is what's his name? I forget. He was a bronze medalist.
Olympic bronze medalist? World's bronze medalist?
He trying to find him.
Did you know Carter Starachi has another year available of eligibility?
Oh boy.
He's going to be
There's
a
that
five-time national champion.
Five-time.
Oh my God. He hasn't officially decided if he's going to return to Penn State, but I looked up Greg Kirkvliet, right? Because I wanted to know a little bit more about him. And then I see this. This is from NittanySportsNow.com. He's not the only Penn State star with a decision to make. Carter Starachi has won his fourth national title at the 174-pound weight class Saturday night, has one more year, as is Bo Bartlett at 141, who hasn't won a title yet and fell to Ohio State's Jesse Mendez at Saturday's title match 4-1. Neither Bartlett or Starachi has made anything official yet, and Kirkvliet didn't confirm anything when asked after his title win. He responded, "We'll see." This is, of course, from NittanySportsNow.com.
I cannot find the other guy, the other heavyweight. I forget his name right now. He's had a long career as a senior freestyle guy, but he's not beating Greg.
It's crazy how heavyweights are becoming more and more athletic specimen.
Oh yeah, they're becoming a serious problem. I mean, heavyweight wrestling is changing. For the longest time, collegiate and international heavyweight matches, no matter the style, were Greco matches.
Yeah. I mean, that's all you could do. Could you imagine trying to shoot? I did in high school. I shot in a heavyweight. Dude sprawled on me. I thought I was going to get crushed under there.
Well, I've done it to a. He wouldn't make the heavyweight cutoff. Well, it's super heavy. He would make the super heavy cutoff. He was 335.
Oh.
But I fucked around and shot on that guy, and I was like, "Am I dead?"
Is this it?
It was tough. And the thing is, like, you know, I'm pretty good at, okay, let's isolate a leg, let's pull it in, let's work out the side, let's get to, you know, a ride position. But against 330,
There's nothing you could
really,
do.
what do you do?
It's too much mass.
The only thing you can do is also be 330. That's it.
Yeah.
So you're seeing these guys coming a little bit lighter. Like, I think Greg probably walks around at 270.
Let's say 280 because he is a big guy.
He's
a muscular 275, 280. He's not they're not fat anymore. They're not these are athletes who he moves like he weighs 200 pounds.
Yeah. And they have better cardio too. Now it's not great. I mean, I watching the matches, I think that the 130s and 140s have like a 4-time work output. But that's kind of the trade-off when you literally double the weight.
Yeah.
Like, okay, I'm okay taking an output decrease. But yeah, Kirkvliet's he's going to smash that weight class. There's really no one that can contest him. I mean, the only guy is Paris. Aaron Brooks is going to be a hard one, whether he goes to 97 or 86. Frankly, both of those are bad decisions. Like, no matter how you do it, but 97 makes more sense.
Yeah, it's the lesser of two evils.
Yeah. Jirachi is in a similar position, not as bad of a position, in my opinion. That actually, I might be lying.
I think it's a tougher path because there's multiple obstacles.
Yeah.
You know what you're gonna meet at the end of 97 and 86.
Yes.
74, you could run into 3 absolute world team members.
2 guys are JP and Chance, like for sure.
Yep.
And both of them are tough. That's the problem. So David Taylor, I don't think any American, I don't think anybody internationally is beating David Taylor for a while.
Dude, and we didn't even bring up David Carr. He's probably going to wrestle in 174. He's going to be there.
Okay, well,
that's the one that's a cursed division. That is terrible.
Also, he beat O'Toole.
And O'Toole's going to be there.
Okay, so O'Toole, David Carr, Chance Marstell, Starachi,
and JB.
Burrow.
That's just who we could think of right now.
That's the deepest division in the U.S. right now.
Wow. I'm going to watch that. Oh, my God.
I can't. Let's see. 65. Alex Derringer, maybe? Derringer's good. I like
65. Him. That's what, 150 pounds?
Boy.
Roughly, yeah. So, you can see Haynes won it. Won the 157.
And see, this is the fucking problem too. We come back to the weight class of discussion. Them only carrying, I think it's 6. It might. There's 10 international weight classes in a non-Olympic year. It's 8. Okay, it's 8. They wanted to cut it to 6, but they kept 8. I think that's the story. 8 weight classes is not enough.
It's not enough for the U.S. or Russia. It's not enough for the wrestling countries.
It's not enough for. Okay,
it's tough. It's tough for other countries to fill those classes with quality.
When it comes to wrestling, there are like 5 countries: the United States, Russia, Iran,
Cuba,
India, and Cuba. You could throw a few other countries potentially in that spot, but that's real. Oh, Japan is a great nomination.
At lighter weights.
Lightweights and freestyle and Greco, especially their women's program. That might be the most dominant program in international sports that I can think of.
You do get a couple studs here in certain weight classes from like Mexico, Venezuela. But those are they have a full team of studs.
I'm just thinking here. 14 weight classes is the high school standard.
That's a lot.
I don't know if the Olympics needs to have 14 classes for wrestling. I would be cool with 12.
I think 10.
10? How about 12 Worlds year, 10 Olympic year?
I could agree with that.
And I don't really know what classes I would keep and what classes I would add. I mean, the thing is, you could add unlimited, but there's not really enough guys who are that big anymore that unlimited makes a lot of sense. I mean, unless you just opened up super heavy, but that's kind of
there's only 6 weight classes. It's 57, 65, 74, 86, 97, 125. That's men's freestyle. That's way too little. That's why this is so difficult.
That's too few. Had this been even an 8 weight class discussion, I think 74 would be not even an issue for the guys who are competing, because it's 74. I think the next weight class up would be 82.
It goes straight to 86. And it goes straight to 86. Non-Olympic, you have 79.
Okay, 79. 79 would be right where a guy like Starachi would fit. Or JB. I mean, That's where he and Marcella wrestled at for final acts.
It's the team trial is going to be a wild ride.
Yeah, the Olympics. Frankly, it makes for some of the most competitive wrestling we've ever seen.
You see more competitive wrestling at home than you do at the
But-
Olympics due to the fact that so many monsters get taken out.
But I think the lack of weight classes is hampering wrestling to a degree by not allowing some real stars. I mean, RBY going to Mexico to compete is honestly kind of an insult. Like, I get why he's doing it. Fuck, I'm trying to do the same thing. But him having to go there and potentially take away, like, Team USA's goal has always been to fill a gold medal at every weight class.
Yep.
It's a great goal. Kind of hard to do that when we keep limiting ourselves to only bringing 6 guys.
Yup. It's gonna be
Fuck the IO.
Yeah, man. The IOC really does everything they can to hamper wrestling, but
They do everything they can to kill a lot of sports when you think about it.
a lot of
I mean,
traditional sports.
Judo used to have leg attacks, and then the IOC made them remove them. You used to be able to double leg in judo and single leg and all that. But then the IOC came to the IJF and said, oh, this looks too much like wrestling. We're going to cut you. Well, no shit. It's still wrestling. They just put a fucking jacket on. Like,
Yeah, it just adds another element to it.
which did that element changes everything. I mean, watch a high level judo match and watch a high level wrestling match, and you genuinely look at 2 totally different methodologies.
Agreed. Is there any final points you want to make on the state of USA wrestling and the NCAA program?
I think the NCAA is in a good place. I think the only thing they could do better is up their marketing budget, bring women's wrestling to the fore a little bit. I know they just brought women's wrestling to the NCAA this year, like formally. Beforehand, it was part of what's called the NCAA, the National Collegiate Wrestling Association, which is kind of like that's where like NAIA schools fit, and women's wrestling was in there. So now they're part of the NCAA. I think putting women to the front a bit, because when I was at the Farrell, the women's matches were fucking crazy. Like, they're going hard. Up the budget. Try to increase the NIL. Now, that's going to be really hard for a number of wrestling programs, but the really good ones, I think, can pull it off. If we start seeing, which honestly, a good company to fill that slot would be the UFC and the WWE. Now, I mean, that might not change because Vince McMahon just got pushed out for rather concerning reasons. But he did love wrestlers, like real wrestlers, and he liked to support them. I mean, I know Bella Meir, Frank Meir's daughter, has a $250,000 a year NIL contract because Dana White wanted her to go to college.
Yep.
So if Dana White could take some of that money he's sitting on and throw a few wrestlers a bone, that would be cool.
And maybe create more of a feeder.
Yeah, just bringing more attention and money into wrestling, and then showing the women's side of it. I mean, I think a lot of people shit on women's sports, but women's wrestling fucking cooks. But you cannot argue with me on this one because it genuinely is really good. Like, women's fighting, people love women's fighting.
Yep.
You don't hear the same accusations about women's fighting as you hear about like the WNBA. Am I wrong?
No, I completely agree with your point. People find that certain elements of the WNBA just it's not comparable to the National Basketball Association. While of course there are certain reasons for that, including some of the rules not really favoring the athletic ability of the women, but they've chosen to not alter the rules of their own volition, so it's significantly hampered their sport. But when it comes to the UFC and more combat sports, people appreciate the task that they're doing, especially when you get to higher levels with the Valentina Shevchenkos, the Zhang Weili's of the world, just absolute monsters who could whoop any guy's ass. And
Yeah.
doing that, and now you have 15 straight killers of women in each of these weight classes. People love watching it.
Yeah. I mean, every fucking casual UFC fan thinks they could beat the women in that division. In any division.
Hell
It's not
no.
happening.
Bro!
It's not happening.
I swear to God, if Zhang Weili came in front of me, she would head kick me into next week.
Yeah. I mean, I genuinely think, like, Yui Sasaki, Japanese wrestler, she's never lost in international competition. I think she would beat me like 6 out of 10 times.
Yeah, see?
And she's 120 pounds.
It's absolute monsters who we just don't get to see because there's no money being put into representing them.
Yeah. I mean, make women more important in the sport. Add NIL money. Fuck. Find a Deion Sanders. That's I've been talking about this with my training partners lately. Wrestling does not have enough it doesn't have enough attitude.
Doesn't have enough personality.
Yeah, it doesn't have enough personality. Like, everybody in wrestling, this is the fucking sport. This is the fucking sport. It's all stone-faced, and then they leave. They win and they fucking leave.
Yeah, no one talks.
Now, we saw that in the NCAAs, that some guys were getting really fucking hyped up. But that's not like it is in football and basketball. Like, look at Deion. He was talking so much shit. It made the city of Boulder like $80 million.
Yeah. Well, what
Imagine
I think
if
it
Penn
is.
State $80 million in.
So the UFC has something similar, right? The UFC in their dark ages, they had the Ultimate Fighter come out, and you get to see the personality of the individuals. And right now, wrestling doesn't really have personality due to the fact that it's kind of it's a very traditional sport. So everyone is all about sportsmanship and not really talking your shit and things like that. And I can understand why to have that opinion, but the moment the sport like the UFC grew was when personalities became involved.
A UFC embedded for wrestling would be fucking sick.
Oh, dude, imagine having a camera in the Penn State wrestling room or the Iowa State wrestling room, Arizona State, to build up to the NCAA championship.
You could do it.
It would create storylines. People would know who Carter Starachi is if you're not actually in the wrestling community and watch wrestling.
F1 Drive to Survive. I'm trying to figure out how you would brand that for wrestling.
I don't know. Call it Matt Madness and put it on Netflix.
Yeah, dude. It's a documentary format. I mean, Drive to Survive, we talked about it recently, is kind of over dramatized.
Agreed. But it makes good television. And that brought a lot of American fans to Formula One, which was not the case for a long time.
If you can bring in a WWE consultant.
I wouldn't go that far because if you bring in a WWE,
here's why I say that though. Not necessarily to set up storylines, but to curate the storyline.
Okay, I could see that
because obviously these guys are gonna have their natural problems, right? Like I'm sure Keegan O'Toole and David Carr meeting each other. I think they met each other 5 times over the course of the past couple of years.
That would be a beautiful storyline.
Yeah. You could have this fucking, let's just say the NCAA, the WWE fucking media producer. He's like, look, if you want to make this look as cool as possible, as dramatic as possible, you got to leave out this little bit of information or give them this bit of information. Like, you're not really changing the sport. You're just kind of withholding and adding pieces to the puzzle, depending on what's going on. I'm not a fucking TV producer, though.
And it would put money into the sport where there isn't money right now for the athletes. The schools make a ton of money. The ESPN makes a ton of money by broadcasting it. The venues make money, but the athletes, no one goes and looks at the athletes and is like, "Hey, I'll pay you my this money to rock my brand." If you're not an Olympic member, they're not paying you.
Well, this is kind of the greater issue of athletics in the United States. And I've talked about this a billion times. If you're not Mr. 4-time Olympic gold medalist, like nobody gives a shit. And it's really unfortunate because we have so many people. Like our track team is just unbelievably good across all of track and field. Our wrestling team is unbelievably good. Boxing team is great. Our fucking tennis players are incredible. Literally any sport the United States puts attention to, whether we have a lot of players in it or not, we end up doing well, like really well. And these people come home. I mean, fuck, who still thinks about Michael Phelps?
Yeah, I mean, after his Olympic runs, of course, everyone remembers Michael Phelps, but like actively, no one thinks of Michael Phelps. Right now, the big star is Noah Lyles.
Karelin is a fucking god in Russia. People still talk. He was on a TV show recently talking about his wrestling career.
I feel like it's just more values placed upon being an Olympian in other countries, because here I think sports are so focused on the marketing aspect of it that the NFL, NBA really take the majority of the viewing public's attention, while there isn't really nationalistic pride coming from the U.S. winning gold medal because we're so used to it or it's expected. While Russia, of course, they always compete very well in the Olympics and are always one or two.
The expectation to win in Russia.
That's true. But if you are a habitual winner in Russia, you are valued for it. You get accurate.
Real rewards.
Exactly. They'll buy you a house.
No, not just that, dude. I mean, I was telling my mom about the Khabib situation this morning. How he won and got $20 million in property and basically a fucking blank check to start his gyms. Karelin and Saitiev are members of the Russian parliament.
For being high-level wrestlers.
So fucking good at wrestling that Russia was like, we're going to honor you. Now, is that the best political system? No, obviously not. But just showing the levels of respect.
Yeah.
Like, hey, you were so good at wrestling, I want you to make political decisions that affect my life. Like, it's fucking ridiculous. But if I were able to implement parts of that into the United States system of athletics, I absolutely would.
Yeah.
Like, come on.
Olympic gold
You win a
medal's not
fucking
worth
UFC and get $20 million of property? That's 20 million US dollars of property, by the way. Like, that's not like Russian dollars.
Yeah.
20 million US dollars of property in Russia is probably more like 500 million in the United States.
In equivalent property. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Like, come on. We can do better.
We really could. Well, thank you, Trace, for being here today. I know took up some of your time.
Oh, don't worry about it. I'm happy to talk shit about wrestling all the time. Just post it and start making fans and bring me on more frequently.
All right. I'm going to post
it. Make a embedded about my wrestling career.
Oh, I could. Too bad you're all the way in Utah, so I wouldn't be able to record it.
Well, when I come back, it's viable.
Yeah.
Because I'll be in Poway.
Ooh, Gabe could do photography. Maybe he could actually use his hobby for the greater good.
That would be cool to have a hype man.
Yep.
Cool.
All right, Trace. Thank you. I'll catch you later.